Uber is forcing over 1 million drivers to do two things. One, they want you to re-upload your driver profile picture, and two, they want you to re-upload your license.
We're actually doubling down and removing accounts that are looking to game the system. So that's why we're also going to ask every US driver and courier, no matter how long you've been using the app, to help us verify your account, again, using our latest identity technology.
So first, I want to start with an example of how this is going very poorly for drivers on the platform.
As most of you know, I am a relatively young Uber driver and just rideshare driver in general. I'm 24 years old at the time of recording this video. And about a year and some change ago, when I was 23, Uber announced that they were changing the age requirement that was going to be allowing which drivers can drive for the Uber platform. However, they made a change to this that it was just going to be, you had to be 25 with like a year of driving experience across the board. Thankfully, they said that Uber drivers who had signed up before, I think it was like August of 2024, drivers like me wouldn't be affected by this. So I don't know what happened, but as of like last week, I got a notification that I had to resubmit my driver's license photo. I think it was like a security purpose thing. I don't remember exactly. It makes sense. Don't get me wrong. Like that's, if it's a security related thing, just to make sure that people are who they say they are, that's.
So what he's referring to here is exactly what the CEO was referring to in his new feature update, where drivers everywhere will be mandated to re-verify their accounts.
So I re-uploaded my driver's license to the Uber platform. I'm thinking nothing of it. And then the next day, I get a notification on the app saying that I am not old enough to drive and I don't meet the minimum age requirements in my market.
So this is a little unfair. He was in a market in which he was allowed to drive Uber, as in pick up people, pick up passengers. They eventually changed the age requirements after he was already on the platform, but they grandfathered him in, which means that he was supposed to be an exclusion to the rule, which I think is fair and the right thing to do. But it seems that this new verification process is a lot more strict and is trying to apply rules across the board to everyone, despite the fact that he was grandfathered in.
I was quite confused, obviously, and I just thought that this was some weird hiccup in Uber's like auto verification system, not realizing that I'd already been an Uber driver for a couple of years, so I shouldn't have been affected by the minimum age thing, considering I wasn't affected before.
and that makes sense. That's the logical way to think about this, that, hey, they have rules, the AI triggered those rules, and he accidentally got his account taken away from him. So then the solution to this would be to talk to support, right?
They said that that I was right, that I shouldn't be affected by the minimum age thing, and that they were going to escalate the issue to another department, and they were just going to make sure that that department manually approved my driver's license and that I wouldn't be affected by it. So you've probably been able to put together that manual review did not go in my favor. I don't know why it didn't go in my favor. If it's a manual review from Uber's own customer support team, obviously that should have been manually approved, but it wasn't.
I suspect that the reason why Uber doesn't want him on their platform is insurance related. Uber has made a huge commitment to tackling insurance costs, and for those of us who buy insurance, we know that the younger you are, the more you pay for insurance, because younger people are more likely to crash than, I guess, middle-aged people. I don't want to call us old. So I think that that's the reason, and I think they're using this excuse in order to get these kinds of people off their platform. Now, so far, he is the only one that I know of that has spoken up. This mandatory enforcement hasn't been rolled out to everyone. It seems to be happening in waves. Now, in Uber's own video, they're saying that humans will be there to make up for where the AI fails. But interestingly enough, this report was just released within the last week, where it analyzes, are drivers really getting reactivated when they're deactivated unfairly? And here's what the report has to say. For years, Uber and Lyft drivers have been honking their horns in distress over their growing crisis of account deactivations. Now, a new report reveals that majority of drivers who were deactivated were given no prior notice and could not successfully appeal their deactivation. That is exactly what Kian is dealing with right now. Although the deactivated drivers surveyed were largely long-time workers with excellent satisfactory ratings and no records of wrongdoing, the report found that 70% of drivers deactivated by Uber and 76% of drivers deactivated by Lyft were deactivated without any prior notice. The report also found that although nearly all of the surveyed drivers attempted to appeal their deactivation, more than 70% remained permanently locked out of their account. So unfortunately, I think even Kian sees the writing on the wall that this is it for him and Uber. He said that he still has access to Uber Eats, but he also said he has something else planned that he wants to talk more about at a later date. So here's a post I found on Reddit from the driver community where this driver doesn't know what's going on, which is partly why I'm making this video, because drivers need to know that Uber is going to do a re-verification process, and Uber needs to communicate better that it's going to be for everyone. But here is what happened when his re-verification process failed. It says we detected unusual activity with your recent identity verification. To make sure it's you and not someone else verifying your identity, we require drivers and couriers to submit identity verification selfies promptly and use the same device for completing selfies and taking trips. We have observed that you are not meeting these. He says, I'm not sharing accounts or what's going on because this is weird to me. And you have two other people. This is brand new. One person says, I got this email too. I don't share accounts, so it's strange. Someone else says they got this email and they're starting to panic. But if you're watching this, everyone is going to go through this. The panic is if you know that nothing is wrong with your account, that you're not sharing your account, but you lose access to your account, that's a problem. So my advice right now to you is to make sure that you're opening your Uber account ahead of time. Don't go out and drive and be where you need to be to pick up passengers just for you to open the app and have to do verification and something go wrong and now you wasted your time. Now here's what the request to update your profile picture will look like. It says your document needs an update to ensure accurate account information on the platform. We occasionally require users to resubmit their profile picture. I have never, ever had Uber tell me that I needed to resubmit my profile picture, so I don't know why they're lying. And I think that is okay. I think this re-verification process is a benefit for drivers who are able to successfully get through this without any issues. And I've actually tried to update my own profile picture in the past, and it's so hard. And I look so young in that picture because it's so old. And that brings me to another potential issue that this could have. People's license might not look like them in real life. You know, AI might not be smart enough to tell the difference between someone who has a beard and no longer has a beard. There are a list of legitimate things that could happen that shows a discrepancy between what the person looks like today and what they look like before that can cause an issue for people's accounts. The post goes on to say, Uber has partnered with Verif to verify your submitted photos using facial recognition technology. This session is video enabled and may be recorded. Now we're talking about a security issue where Uber is responsible for verifying your account. They've passed this off to a third party. But if you have an issue with the results of the verification, you're talking to Uber support. You're not talking to this company. This is not okay for the people who are having their accounts destroyed, even though it shouldn't be. Now, for those of the people out there who are sharing accounts, should not be on Uber, don't have proper documentation, you know, aren't citizens or whatever the requirements are, I get it. And I think it's a overwhelming positive, but only for the drivers who don't have an issue. And it says that Uber will only receive a copy of your photos and a pass-fail indication of whether the photos are a match. So here's what the person who posted that photo has said. My profile photo is terrible. I uploaded thinking I'd replace it immediately. I just woke up, needed a shower and shave, and I needed a haircut. It's terrible. For 3 years, Uber support has refused to allow me to update the profile picture. Now it says today they require a new photo or you can't drive. Uber is up to something. I think I like it for a change, right? There are some benefits to this that we will talk about later. Many drivers got messages on identity and were required to resubmit driver's license. Uber seems to be cracking down on fake accounts. Too bad Uber is so incompetent at everything it attempts to do, but at least it appears Uber may be attempting something, bless their hearts. And I resonate with that. You know, I can get behind that entire sentiment. I just feel bad for drivers who need this money, who are at the whim of an AI. That's all it takes for you to have your life twisted. So someone points out, I literally get asked this every single day at some point to verify myself with a selfie. This isn't the same thing, right? As this person responds, he says, this is different. This is changing your profile picture and probably what they match to those requests. Possibly someone or multiple complain that profile pictures look nothing like the driver, so it's required change. So someone responded to this saying, I literally get asked every single day at some point to verify myself with a selfie. But this person says this is different, and it is. This is changing your profile picture and probably what they match to those requests. But the reality is, like I said earlier, your face can legitimately be different from what it looks like on your driver's license. Yes, this is a good thing, but it's new and it's gonna have flaws, and those flaws are gonna negatively impact drivers that it should not impact. Here's an example of someone who's being flagged for a reason that I think people should be flagged for, but they shouldn't lose their account over. Let's check it out. This is over on X. This person called Gruski says, what does this even mean? These companies can just make things up to deactivate you, and there is really nothing you can do. This is why being on multiple platforms is necessary. So in the screenshot that he got from Uber, it says, we detected unusual activity with your recent identity verification. To make sure it's you and not someone else verifying your identity, we require drivers and couriers to submit identification verification selfies promptly to use the same device for completing selfies and taking trips. We have observed that you are not meeting these requirements. Continued failure to verify your identity may lead to a review of your account deactivation. Uber uses identification verification to help prevent account sharing. Keep in mind that sharing your account violates Uber's community guidelines, as well as your agreement to access the Uber platform, which both state that allowing someone else to use your account is prohibited. So Matt over on Twitter says, I use 2 phones for Uber driving gig work and switch back and forth depending on circumstance. I'll be careful to always use the same phone for ID verification after seeing this. And that's advice that I have to now resonate with and consider too. I do have Uber on 2 phones. I have my personal phone, and then I have my folding phone that I use for Uber and Lyft. Now I know that I should only use 1 phone for verification. I should probably honestly just remove Uber from this phone. It seems like Uber is trying to deal with issues, and they're not worried about the legitimate accounts that get caught in the crossfire. But as Gruski just points out, he's only ever used 1 phone. I've never seen this email before, first time seeing it. So this is probably an example of the new system flagging someone in a way that they shouldn't be flagged. Now, I do want to be clear about something. The people who are experiencing negative outcomes with this new verification system, who should legitimately be on the platform, they're probably going to be in the minority. But that doesn't make it suck any less. I think it's okay if companies want to incorporate AI into these things, but their human reviewers need to be competent. And that is severely lacking when it comes to Uber support. Now, I suspect that Uber is doing this because they have been in the spotlight for illegal immigrants that are here and driving on their platform. Here's one of the biggest examples that I've seen lately that put Uber into that spotlight.
Charleston man is suing Uber after he says he was assaulted by a driver who law enforcement say is a Russian national in the United States illegally.
The fact that someone can be here illegally and be on the Uber platform is a problem.
When Brian Coble ordered an Uber, he thought it was going to be an ordinary ride. Before he says the driver, Vadim Ulium Zhayev, and punched him in the head, leaving him unconscious, like you see happening here. Coble claims the driver refused to take them with Coble's service. A lawsuit filed by Coble says law enforcement told him the driver was using a fake driver's license.
Has a fake driver's license. I don't know which part of Uber's AI would be able to deal with that. If the fake driver's license actually looks like the person, who knows? But hopefully there's some other securities in their back system that protects people from this. I know I spent the first half of this video talking about drivers who will be unfairly impacted by this when they shouldn't be, just like Kian and some other drivers who are now getting warning and they're concerned about their accounts. But overall, I think the driver base will benefit from this by having people who should not be on the platform off the platform. 1, it's going to increase the quality of the platform. And then 2, it's going to lower the amount of competition other drivers have with other drivers on the platform. But that's in the face of Uber continuing to expand self-driving cars.
So to Coble and his attorney, Kenneth Berger, they said knowing this could have been prevented points to a bigger call to action for deeper background checks.
If it took our office, a law office, 10 minutes to figure this out or less, how could a multinational corporation with billions of dollars in assets not take the time to do the same?
Yeah, and this happened over the summer. And it does take a while for tech companies to roll things out. And I do believe that this is largely responsible for this new push for verification on top of the current administration putting pressure on Uber to do so. Having Uber do things to push them off the platform is the correct call. This is an example of why illegal immigrants cannot be Uber and Lyft drivers, especially given the current administration.
This man was in his Uber when the Uber driver got pulled over by ICE.
Yo, there's no way this is happening. Yo, they just took the Uber driver.
Now, I'm not going to comment too heavily on the political aspect of it. I think that if you are here illegally and you don't have the proper documentation, you shouldn't be an Uber or Lyft driver. I'm pro-immigration. I'm okay with immigration when it's done correctly, when you have the proper documents and the proper things. Well, I do believe this is a net win for drivers who are able to pass verification successfully. I want you guys to get your finances in order, start paying off your cars, start paying off your debt, and put yourself in a position that if Uber betrays us, as they are, and replaces us, or makes us compete with self-driving cars that harm surges, that we are in a place that we are protected. Here's a video where I give more information about what you should do with your finances in order to take it further. And it's a spreadsheet that I use to control my finances so I know what's going on in my business. You have to treat rideshare like a business so that you know when it's no longer time to be a rideshare driver. Peace.